There is a feeling that visits us in the quiet moments. It usually arrives when the work is done, or perhaps on a Sunday afternoon, when the noise of the world briefly subsides. It is a subtle tightening in the chest, a restless twitch in the fingers. It is the creeping suspicion that you are wasting time. We have been trained to fear the pause. We look at an empty hour in our schedule not as a gift, but as a failure. If you are not moving, you are falling behind. If you are not producing, you are not valuable. This is the script written by a world obsessed with speed and volume. We fill our ears with podcasts so we do not have to hear our own thoughts. We scroll through infinite feeds so we do not have to look at the blank wall. We pack our days with tasks like bricks in a wall, terrified of a single gap. But this fear of emptiness is based on a misunderstanding of how the world actually works. We think power comes from force and fullness. Ancient wisdom suggests that true power comes from what is missing. Imagine a craftsman in an old workshop, surrounded by the smell of cedar and pine. He is building a wheel for a cart. It is a heavy, solid object designed to carry great weight across rough roads. The craftsman selects 30 strong spokes. He carves them from the finest wood. He polishes them until they are smooth. He fits them carefully into the outer rim. The spokes are essential. They provide the structure. They provide the reach. They are the tangible, visible parts of the wheel. But look at the center. Where do all these 30 spokes converge? They meet at the hub. And what is the hub? It is a piece of wood with a hole in the middle. It is a void. It is an empty space tailored to accept the axle. Without that hollow center, the 30 spokes are just a bundle of sticks. Without that emptiness, the wheel cannot turn. The cart cannot move. The utility of the massive, solid wheel depends entirely on the part of it that is not there. This is a teaching from the Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu observed the world and saw that we are obsessed with the solid, the visible, and the busy. We focus on the spokes. We count our achievements. We count our hours of labor. We measure the thickness of our walls and the weight of our possessions. We think this is where our life lives. But Lao Tzu invites us to look at the center. He says that while we work with what is there, the use comes from what is not there. Consider a clay vessel. A potter takes a lump of wet earth and throws it onto the spinning wheel. His hands shape the walls. He pulls the clay up, making it tall and beautiful. He might glaze it with bright colors or carve intricate patterns into the surface. But you cannot drink from the clay. You can only drink from the empty space inside the clay. If the cup were solid, full of itself, it would be a paperweight, not a vessel. It is the emptiness that holds the tea. It is the emptiness that quenches your thirst. Consider the room you are sitting in right now. You might look at the walls, the windows, the furniture. You might admire the paint or the strength of the beams. But you cannot live in the walls. You live in the space between them. If the room were filled with concrete from floor to ceiling, it would be useless. It is the hollow space that allows you to walk, to breathe, to exist. The value of the house is not in the bricks, but in the shelter of the empty air they enclose. We understand this physics when it comes to wheels and cups and rooms. We know a solid wheel will not turn, and a solid cup will not pour. Yet we refuse to apply this logic to our own minds. We treat our consciousness like a warehouse that must be packed to the ceiling. We treat our schedule like a battlefield where no territory can be left unconquered. We feel guilty when we are not spokes. We feel ashamed of the hub. Look at the modern calendar. It is often a series of colored blocks sitting shoulder to shoulder, touching each other. Meeting after meeting, task after task. We drive from one obligation to the next, listening to the news, checking messages at red lights. We are proud of this density. We say we are booked solid. We wear our exhaustion like a medal of honor. We believe that if we just add one more spoke to the wheel, we will finally be secure. But a wheel with too many spokes becomes a solid disc. It becomes heavy. And if the center is clogged, if there is no hole for the axle, the wheel locks up. This is what we call burnout. This is what we call a creative block. It is not a lack of effort, it is a lack of emptiness. When your mind is completely full of information, worry, and planning, there is no room for anything new to enter. You cannot pour fresh tea into a cup that is already brimming with stale water. You might notice this in your own life. When do the answers come? They rarely arrive when you are staring at the screen, forcing your brain to grind out a solution. They arrive when you are in the shower. They arrive when you are washing the dishes. They arrive when you are walking the dog and looking at the gray sky. They arrive in the empty spaces. The insight needs the void. The solution needs the silence to resonate. When we eliminate all wasted time, we eliminate the very mechanism that allows us to function. We think we are optimizing our lives, but we are actually seizing the engine. The engine needs oil, but it also needs clearance. Parts that touch too tightly will grind themselves to dust. The friction of a life without pauses creates heat, and eventually, something snaps. We find ourselves angry for no reason. We find ourselves weeping in the car. We find ourselves unable to sleep because the wheel is still spinning in the dark, with no center to steady it. The invitation here is not to abandon the spokes. We have responsibilities. We have work. We have families to care for and bills to pay. The wheel needs the wood. But the invitation is to reclaim the dignity of the hub. It is to recognize that the empty time is not a defect. It is the most useful part of your day. It is the axis around which everything else revolves. This requires a shift in how you view your own worth. It takes courage to do nothing. It takes a warrior's discipline to sit in a chair without a book, without a screen, and just let the dust settle. At first, the mind will rebel. It will scream that you are being lazy. It will remind you of the emails waiting. It will list the chores undone. This is just the momentum of the spinning wheel. Watch it, but do not touch it. Create a deliberate center in your day. This is not rest so that you can work harder later. That is still treating rest as a servant of production. This is rest for its own sake. This is honoring the vessel. Maybe it is 10 minutes in the morning before the house wakes up. Maybe it is a walk where you do not listen to anything but the sound of your own feet. Maybe it is sitting in your car for 5 minutes before you walk into the office. In that space, you are not a worker. You are not a parent. You are not a problem solver. You are simply the space where these things happen. You are the silence that holds the sound. By guarding this emptiness, you make your actions more effective. A wheel with a true, smooth center rolls with very little effort. A mind with a quiet center can handle a crisis without shattering. When you speak from a place of silence, your words have weight. When you act from a place of stillness, your movements are precise. You stop reacting to every bump in the road. You stop vibrating with the anxiety of the world. You become the hub. The world may spin fast around you. The scenery may blur. The noise may rise and fall. But at the very center, there is a quiet point that does not move. Do not apologize for this space. Do not hide it. When someone asks what you are doing, and you are simply sitting and breathing, you do not have to invent an excuse. You are doing the essential work. You are maintaining the utility of the vessel. You are keeping the wheel functional. Let the guilt evaporate. It is a ghost from a culture that wants you to be a machine. You are not a machine. You are a living being, and life requires breath. Breath requires the pause between the inhale and the exhale. Without that pause, the rhythm fails. So, look at your day. Look at the solid wall of tasks. Where can you drill a hole? Where can you carve out the center? It does not need to be large. It just needs to be empty. It is in this emptiness that you will find yourself again. It is in the nothingness that the utility of your life truly resides. The spokes are many, but the center is one. The clay is heavy, but the space is light. The walls are strong, but the room is open. Can you trust the emptiness enough to let it hold you?